Empire at War is a Star Wars RTS game from 2006. If you follow the franchise, you might perk your head at this release date, because wait a minute, 2006? Isn't that when your subscriber percentages were even worse than they are now? And yes, that's true, but it's also when good Star Wars games were being made. There was a period starting with the original Battlefront in 2004 and ending in 2010 with The Force Unleashed 2, where there was consistently a good Star Wars game in some genre every year. We're talking Battlefront, My Love, Republic Commando, Please God Give Us a Sequel Respawn, Battlefront 2, Empire at War, hey wait a minute, Lego Star Wars, The Force Unleashed, 2009 doesn't count, and then The Force Unleashed 2. Rolling back to 2006, or rather 2007, which is when the DLC came out, to give it its full title, Empire at War Forces of Corruption is, or rather was, one of the best RTS games I've ever.
And if you'll indulge me here for just 1 second, this is the only PC game that I own a boxed, physical copy of.
Trying to talk about this game in depth is very frustrating, because there's no ideal way to play it anymore. I don't mean that in the way that you're probably expecting, where like, maybe the Steam version is unplayable but the GOG version has workarounds. No. This is not Shogo. The game works fine, but when you play a game from 2006 that people have dedicated hundreds of hours to modding, you're inevitably going to want to look for a total overhaul. Empire at War has two halves. Well, three of course, but no one plays the campaign. There's Skirmish, your standard RTS game affair, and Empire at War's claim to fame, Galactic Conquest. Did you ever play the identically named mode in Battlefront 2 and wished it wasn't total dogshit? Then go play Starsector. Yeah, that's this. The game is separated into two layers. The strategy layer and the tactical layers, which, come to think of it, seems to be a recurring theme in the games that I play and cover. Anyway, Empire at War spices it up by not only having one tactical layer, but two tactical layers. There's a strategy layer where you look over your galactic empire, you see what I did there, and manage it at large. Just as the Romans will tell you, any good old empire needs to do its fair share of conquest, and so, Empire at War blesses us with not only space combat, but ground invasions too. This mod, which I hesitate to actually call a remake, does away with everything ground-related entirely, and that might be the right call. Look, I'm what's colloquially... How the fuck is this word pronounced? Colloquially known as a total dumbass, and you know what people who go by that moniker are fans of? Star Wars. The whole reason I give a single shit about this franchise is the clones, and so at first you might think I'd be totally against removing ground combat, and that's what I thought too. But, it's a complete and total mess. This is true in every iteration of the game. Neither the base game nor any mod I've played has managed to make ground combat not feel like complete and total shit. Let me try to sum up my thoughts on it. If planetary invasions were realistic, they'd be month, if not year-long affairs with upwards of hundreds of millions of combatants that would no doubt devastate the entire local populace, which in itself would ensue decades, if not centuries of political unrest, not to mention possible ecological collapse. But thankfully this isn't a Templin Institute video, it's a Star Wars game released from 2006. A planetary invasion consists of sending, at the most extreme, 100 men to a location, blowing up at most 5 buildings and a few dozen combatants, and then claiming victory. Considering that the space battle to get into the ground invasion consists of tens of thousands of men giving their lives, this seems like a slight imbalance in manpower. Wait, did I say tens of thousands? These space battles range from containing the smallest of transports to sizable Star Destroyers to the fucking Executor, a ship with over 250,000 crew. Why on earth are ground invasions a thing? Let me simulate how diplomacy with the goddamn Executor would go.
Hello? This is Asteroid Shit 07. What's up? You want us to hand over the reins to our local government? Well, we have a shield generator outside. What do you mean your ship has a crew so large as the population of an entire capital city? And it could destroy the entire rock we live on in a thought? Well, shit.
The Empire needing the Death Star for intimidation is kind of laughable when you realize that literally any Star Destroyer in their entire fleet of hundreds could probably level an entire civilization to slag within a few days of bombardment. The Executor, being a ship with just about 16 times the armament of a regular Star Destroyer, could probably do it within hours. Suddenly, the Empire at War remake, removing ground combat entirely, doesn't sound too far out of the picture, huh? Before someone brings it up, yes, you can call in bombing runs and bombardments onto planets mid-combat. But the scale of these assaults is paltry compared to what you have in orbit. My fleet can manage more than one shot every 10 minutes, come on. Okay, tangent over. Ground invasions consist of landing on a planet, capturing a handful of predetermined landing zones and special buildings, and destroying all of the enemy presence on the planet. This sounds fine, but will inevitably devolve into hunting for the last person on the map, like trying to hunt for the last cookie underneath your fridge. In some mods, this following problem extends to space battles as well, but the enemy's garrison is also never ending, meaning that you're forced to rush their base as fast as possible to not die in a war of attrition. So, it has the facade of complicated gameplay, but like Warhammer 2 Sieges, it devolves into the exact same thing every time. Press Ctrl A to select all of your units, you click attack move, and you right click on their base, you set it to 2 times speed, and then you go make a sandwich. I did micro a lot when I first started, but eventually realized that until you find the chosen way, you must simply accept losses in the grinding battle that are ground invasions. Coming from games like XCOM and Darkest Dungeon, this was quite a shock to me. If you try otherwise, you will simply take even more from the attrition you'll eventually incur from their endless garrisons. You hear that? The right click on their base and go make a sandwich strategy is optimal. That chosen way is infantry, by the way. Human wave. You care not for their lives. They're worthlessly cheap and they get the job done. Do not bother to invest in expensive vehicles. Get 40 infantry companies for the same price.
The men are ready, General. Right away, General. Right away, General. Right away, General. Right away, General. Combat is a clone's natural element. We're ready for battle, sir. Right away, General. Oh, there's gonna be a firefight.
Auto-resolve does not help the situation, by the way. I'm pretty sure that the way it works is that it rolls a 1d2 to guess if you win, and regardless of the outcome it deletes your entire force. Space combat, on the other hand, is actually pretty fun. The majority of ships that actually matter have their health divided into, I don't know if there's an actual term for them, so I'm just gonna call them hull points. Destroying them permanently disables whatever bonus it was granting the ship for the rest of the battle, whether it be a weapon, the engines, a shield generator, or hangar bays. If you disable everything on a ship except its engines, it literally has to float there and await death with no way to defend itself, which is as morbid as it is hilarious. A pretty significant problem with the system is that damage done to a hull point that it was just destroyed doesn't get applied anywhere else in the ship. So you have to sort of weirdly micro it and hope you are timing everything correctly, like some sort of extremely morbid game of hot potato. These being spaceships, they're also incredibly slow and sluggish, which feels awful at times, especially when a ship overextends and gets itself killed and you can't save it. This bothered me for a while until I had my epiphany on the ground combat. Losses are mandatory. If a Star Destroyer decides to divert full power to its engines and plows right into the enemy fleet, that's their fault, not mine. The range of ships you'll be flying and fighting will obviously vary wildly, depending on which mod and era you're in.
I'm alive, my boy. I'm alive. Mid back, please.
In the Clone Wars, expect a lot of Venators and Lucrehulks. Come the Empire and expect a lot of Star Destroyers and, plenty of Star Destroyers. A mod like Rise of the Mandalorians actually has a lot of variety, and I really like its art style. It also has the best unit I've ever seen, a privately owned Star Destroyer plastered with advertisements. Unfortunately, the same mod has some of the worst voice mixing I've ever heard. Obviously you can't expect stellar voice work from a community's curated mod, but listen to this! Thrawn's Revenge and Fall of the Republic are two of the highest rated mods for Empire at War, both made by the same dev team. One takes place after the fall of the Empire, and the other before it even began, respectively. The two mods share a lot of mechanics, which I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say the game did not need at all. All of the extra resources that are added are unnecessary complexity that is poorly explained and doesn't need to be there at all. To continue this video's trend of it flowing like a river of sewage, I was about to have a giant technical issues section here. But even for my taste, it went on for a little bit too long and was very, very boring. So, to keep that all short, all the fixes are in the description. Yes, you can add a pause button, and yes, you can stop the game from crashing on Alt-Tab every single time. So, if you recall, just shy of 3 pages ago, I said, Empire at War: Forces of Corruption is, or rather was, one of the best RTS games I ever played in my life. The reason that is became a was is, hey, Why is the Starsector footage playing? It was supposed to be kept secret for the reveal. Yeah, with Nexarillan, I can't see any real reason to play Empire at War over Starsector. It's got way, way, way better space combat, much more intimate fleet customization by quite some margin, empire management, and really the only thing it's missing is a portrait pack with clones. Which, by the way, if anyone actually ends up making to a decent standard, I don't know, $30 from me and a link in the description and end screen. This is genuine, by the way. On a more meta level, because Starsector mods usually consist of some scripting and art for their ships, mods are like 16 meg. Fall of the Republic, on the other hand, is 2.5 gig. Oh, and Starsector is only $15 and still in active development. Empire at War, on the other hand, a game which is almost 20 years old, is $20. Both of these games do take several decades to save, though, so there's my stellar review of Empire at War. Go play Starsector instead. While recording a little bit for this video, well... Alright, I'll just play a little bit of Starsector. Just a tiny amount of Starsector. We might be seeing a sequel to this game soon, headed by Firaxis devs? Oh good lord, just the prospect of Star Wars XCOM is an exciting thought, isn't it? If you are capable of basic pattern recognition, I'm sure you noticed that in the last half of this video I really stopped using Empire at War footage, and that's because I really wanted to play literally any other game. I don't think it's aged that gracefully, and it's not all that great to play in the modern day, unfortunately. Next up, I'll probably look into covering Nexarillan. Nexarillan? Nexib, whatever the hell.